Welcome back to When Harry Met Board Games, where we feed our people with relatable content and our victory condition is your satisfaction. I'm Harry, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click on that bell notification. That way when we're doing our thing, YouTube lets you know. Today I'll be reviewing another game for you all. Today I'll be reviewing this game right here, In the Year of the Dragon, designed by Stefan Feld and published by Ravensburger Games. This is the 10th anniversary edition. I'm going to set the game up, show you how it plays, and then we'll get back to hear my final thoughts and grades. This is what the game looks like set up for 2 players. Each player chooses a color, and they get pieces assigned to that color. They get a score marker in that color and start it at 0. They also get a turn order marker and place it on the 0 track of the turn order track. So there's a secondary track within this game. They also get these nice little dragon pieces in their respective color, which will be used to designate actions going forward. They each get a starting hand or a hand of 11 of these character cards, which they're going to be used to draft these different characters that are available throughout the game. And these cards are all available to them at any given point, right? So you also start with 6 yuan or 6 coins. The yellow here is a denomination of 3, and then you have the whites, which are just 1. So 6 coins, and they each get 2 palaces or 2 pagodas of 2 levels to start the game, which they can use to accommodate their characters. So you can accommodate characters equal to the amount of levels that you have in your palaces. So we start with 2 palaces of 2, that's 4 levels. So you start off with a capacity of 4 characters that you can accommodate. By the way, you can never build a palace higher than a 3rd level. So at that point, if you want to build any further, you will be obligated to build additional palaces, but you got to be careful with that because there could be potential consequences. So let's simulate what the game looks like. First of all, let me mention that we have all of these characters that you can choose from, and they benefit you in different ways. For example, here you have the farmer, which will help you get rice, and rice will be helpful to prevent the famine calamity, which we have the track here, the Year of the Dragon, 12 months, 12 rounds. Each round has a different event that will occur, except for the first 2, which are just peaceful months where nothing will happen, just a time to prepare. But every other month will have a calamitous event. You can never have 2 of the same events back to back. So if for whatever reason you randomize it, you would have to at least put something in between them. Now, these characters here have this number here, the 4. And what this indicates is how much you would advance in the turn order track once you draft said character. Also, each character has an older, wiser version of themselves. So depending on the player count, you always have a bunch of the younger workers, and they're available. And you always have a fewer amount of the more wise, veteran, experienced version of that same character. So this farmer, for example, will only advance you 1 in the turn order track, but he will get you more rice symbols than the younger worker. Okay, so let's simulate the way a round works. So the first thing you do when you start the game is each player is going to draft 2 starting characters for free and accommodate them in their palaces. So the blue player is the first player. Turn order is always determined by whoever's furthest along in the turn order track. If they're in the same spot, it's whichever piece is on top, so it's the blue player. And he's going to draft any 2. So first of all, we're going to look at the calamities. And the first calamitous event in round 3 is actually famine. And it's designated here by this tile right here. So this player is going to choose to draft 1 farmer, which is going to help him produce rice or food to slow down the effects of that famine. And he's going to pick a 2nd character. And he's looking here at the 2nd calamitous event in round 4, which is the disease, the plague, and he's thinking about it. So he's going to get a healer as well, and the healer will help prevent the effects of this disease. So he's going to accommodate him in a separate palace. Each of these palaces have capacity for 2 characters apiece because they're each of 2 levels. So there's that. Now, the green player is going to draft 2 characters of his own. But here's the thing. You can never draft the same combination of characters that a previous player drafted for this setup phase in the beginning of the game. Later on in the game, when you have your character draft phase of each round, you can draft the same character as another player. But for this freebie at the beginning of the game, where you get 2 free drafts, you cannot combine the same exact. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't get either or. You can get either or. So, as this player here, I'm actually going to draft a farmer for starters. And for my second, oh, by the way, each time you draft a character, you advance in the turn order track according to this number. So the blue player drafted 2 number 4s. So we're going to advance them 8 spots in the turn order track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the green player so far has drafted the farmer for 4. And he's going to draft this monk for 6. Not so much because he's interested in the monk's power. The monk's power actually is just helpful at the end of the game. He's going to help you score some points, but it's inconsequential during the game. But he's going to help me advance 6 spots on the turn order track, put me to 10, so that the green player now is currently in the lead and will currently be the start player. So that's done for the setup phase. Now we will move on into the game proper, round 1. And the first thing we do is we take these action cards, and there's 7 of them, and then we will divide them into 2 groups, and uneven groups, obviously, and 7 is an odd number. So there will be 1 group of 4 and 1 group of 3. So we shuffle these, and these will vary throughout the game. We're always going to repeat this process from round to round. And we're going to put here 4 actions on one side, and now we're going to put 3 actions on the other. And the green player is the starting player. He's going to choose one of these actions, and he's going to start getting ready for food, most likely. Yeah. He's going to start getting ready for food. So he's going to go over here. And the way it works is you're going to always, if you choose the food action, you're always going to collect at least 1 food for the symbol on this action tile. But you're going to gain additional food for every rice symbol on any of your tiles in your palaces. And I have 1 symbol of my own. So I'm going to collect 2 food tokens, or 2 rice tokens. And these are very helpful because when the famine comes, I'm going to have to provide 1 food for every palace. Not for every character, but for every palace. So I already have 2. So if I don't build any additional palaces, I should already be covered. So there's that. Now, the blue player will have their turn. And this is what's very interesting about this game. The blue player can freely choose among any of these 4 actions. However, if the blue player is interested in any of these 3 actions on this side, where the green player chose their action, the gaining food action, it doesn't matter if it's the same action. If it's any action on this same side, the blue player is going to have to pay 3 yuan, or 3 coins, in order to do so. All right, so if for whatever reason you weren't interested in any action, there's always the option to restock your yuan, your coinage. If you're falling short, you can restock it back to 3, but you would have to have 2 or fewer coins in order to activate that action, obviously. So I am going to, with the blue player, he's actually not interested in that. So instead, well, he would be able to, there's not much he would be able to do here. He cannot build because he does not have the builder phase. Well, actually, he could build 1 level of palace. That might actually be worth it. You know what? He's going to go over here, and for free, he will build 1 palace level because there's 1 building symbol. If he had the builder tile in his area, or the architect, whatever you call him, he would be able to have 2 symbols and therefore build more, but he does not. So he will grab 1 of these palace levels, and he could either start a new palace, which gives him the benefit of scoring additional points, because at the end of the round, you score points for each of your palaces. But it also makes this a liability, because first of all, he's going to have to pay food later on for that palace, and he's also going to have to make sure that it's accommodated, because every time you end the round and you have a palace with nobody occupying it, it loses 1 level. So if it's already at 1 level, it will just be decayed altogether. So he's going to build this, and we're done with the action phase. Now we're going to go to the character draft phase, and we're going to look at the cards. And again, the green player is still first, and you have 9 of these character cards corresponding with each of the 9 different character tiles that you could draft. But you also have 2 of these wild cards, which you could choose for any of those characters. So basically, you're going to have, throughout the game, you're going to get 1 copy of each character, and there's going to be 2 characters, or maybe 1 character that you'll have 3 of, or 2 characters that you might get 2 of throughout the game, depending on what choices you make. So the green player is going to go first. They feel pretty covered with food. So what they're going to do is they're going to use this card here to draft a healer here. And they will draft the healer. And the healer allows them to advance 4 spots in the turn order track. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. He's getting ready for the disease, right? For the plague. Okay, so there's that. Now the blue player is going to look at his cards, and he too is going to draft a blue card right here. Is he? Is that what he wants to occupy this with? Yeah, he's going to draft a blue healer tile. And now by drafting the blue healer tile, he has made the wise older version of that tile available, because you cannot even have access to these higher, more valuable tiles until we've already exhausted the weaker or younger versions of the same characters. So he will also advance 4 in the turn order track. He's still behind the green player. And now we're done with the character drafting phase. Now we move on to the calamity or event phase. And here's the thing. Round 1, just like in round 2, is going to be uneventful. Nothing's going to happen. So we're just going to turn this over, flip it upside down, indicate that we're done with this round, and move on. Now we will score points at the end of the round. Each player is going to score 1 point for each of their palaces. So the blue player has 2 palaces, they'll score 2 points. The green player has 3 palaces, they'll score 3. Also, if they got any of these favor tokens, you would score points equal to the dragon symbols on them at the end of each round. Also, if you ever drafted any of these court ladies, you would get 1 more additional point at the end of each round. But so far, we don't have any of those. Now we'll move on to round number 2. And again, we're going to shuffle up these actions, the 7 actions that are possible. And we're going to distribute them 4 and 3. The green player will go first. And the green player is going to choose to go over here. He's going to go on this side because, first of all, he wants to draft this right here, the favor tokens. And the way it works is you can pay 2 coins to grab a small favor, which just has 1 dragon symbol, or you could pay 6 coins to grab a large favor token, which has 2 dragon symbols. And again, these will score you at the end of each round. I'm only going to pay 2 because we do have the taxes eventually coming, the Emperor's taxes. I'm going to pay 2 to get a small favor token. And also what I have done is I kind of have blocked off this entire area because I know that the blue player is going to want to get some rice. But now, instead of getting it for free, they're going to have to think and consider paying for it. And the blue player will. The blue player is going to go here. They want to be ready for the famine next round. They don't know what's going to happen, so they want to be ready for that. So they're going to pay 3 coins just to be able to use an action on the same side as the green player. And because of that, they'll get to activate this food action, which gets them 1 rice for each symbol on the tile itself, plus any tile in their player area, which they have 1. So that will be a total of 2 food. So they're going to grab 2 rice tokens. Again, they're going to need at least 1 rice token for every palace. So that's something to consider. Okay, so we are done with that. Now the blue player will begin with their character drafting phase. And what do they want to do? They actually want, this is available, which is great, but we'll save that for later. What the blue player will do right now is they're actually going to use this right here to draft the scholar. And the scholar is very helpful because if you ever choose the research action, the scholar can get you tons of points. So he's going to draft the scholar here, and he's going to advance 4 on the score track, on the turn order track, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, have the potential of using that action over there. So there we go. Okay. Now the blue player will draft a character, and they will draft the builder, and they're going to get themselves ready to build. So they will draft the builder right here, place them in one of the palaces that have 2 levels. They can't place them here because there's only 1 level. That's exactly what he wants to get the builder for, so he can start building more levels. And there's that. Okay, so we're done with the character draft phase. Now we're going to move to the event phase. And again, this is an uneventful month, the last of these kinds. So let's get ready for the Year of the Dragon. We'll flip this over. And at the end of each round, we will score again. So again, there's only 2 palaces here for the blue player, but they do have this favorite token with 1 dragon symbol, so they will score 3 points. Oh, I scored this wrong last time. It was blue scored 3 and green scored 2. So green will score 3 points now. And blue still has 3 palaces, so yet again, they will score 3. And then we're done with round 2. Now we'll move on to round 3. The first of the calamities is about to strike. Again, we will shuffle these action tiles, and we will distribute them 4 and then 3. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. And the green player is still first on the turn order track, so they're doing well for themselves. Oh, wait, I never advanced the blue player too, so he's a little bit closer. Okay, so now we are going to choose an action. And the green player is actually, they're set for food. Yes, they're going to capitalize on what they just finished doing. They want to do research, and they're going to score points equal to the amount of books on this tile, which is 1, plus any tiles in their player area, which they have an additional 2 right here, so that's 3. They're going to score 3 points. Okay, now the blue player is going to choose their actions. They have enough food. Well, they could use 1 more food, actually, because they only have food for 2 of their 3 palaces. So you know what? They'll just take this free action here. They'll get 2 food, and you might feel like that's a waste having additional food, but guess what? There will be, each of these calamitous events have a duplicate. So there will be a second famine later on. So this leftover food will serve its purpose then. Okay, so now we'll do our character draft phase. And let's see what this player wants to do. Well, first of all, he only has accommodations for 4 characters. So when he makes this current draft, he's going to have to get rid of a character. So let's see what's going to happen here. He is going to, you know what? He is going to draft for himself he's going to use one of these wilds, and he's going to draft another scholar. He is going crazy here, and he's actually going to replace his farmer with that scholar. That is insane. Is that really what I want to do? No, no, no. He's going to replace his monk. He's going to replace his monk with this scholar here. He really wants to get some points later on. I'm wondering if he should get a builder instead. Oh, well, we'll do that. And then the blue player here is going to draft a character. Oh, these are already spent. Sorry. The blue player is going to draft a character. And the blue player, who's he going to draft? Who's the blue? You know what? He's going to draft one of these tax collectors here so that he could hopefully start making money going forward so he could pay the emperor his taxes. So he's done with that. Okay, now we will move on to the event. So again, we have the famine. And the way the famine event works is that for each palace, you're going to have to pay a food. For each palace that you're unable to pay food for, you're going to have to kill a character or discard a character. So the blue player has 2 palaces, and he has exactly 2 rice tokens, so he'll be just fine. And the green player has 3 palaces, so they will have to pay 3 rice tokens, which they have more than enough for. And nobody suffered any consequences for the year of famine or the month of famine. But beware, bad things will continue happening in this game, and eventually you will have your day. All right, so there's that. So we are done with this round. Again, the green player will score 2, 1 for each palace, plus 1 for this dragon symbol. So that's 3 points. 1, 2, 3. The blue player has 3 palaces. They also will score 3. Okay? And then we'll move on to the next round. And basically, this is the way the game continues to play. Again, you have these different events for the disease or the plague. What happens is you're going to have these healing symbols here, or these medicine symbols, equal to 3 players for every, or to equal to 3. If you have anything that you fall short of 3, that's a character you're going to have to kill, right? So if you only have 2 of those symbols, you'll have to kill a character. If you only have 1 of those symbols, you'll have to kill 2 characters. If you have none of those symbols, you'll have to kill 3 characters, and you will choose and figure that out. With the Emperor, you're going to have to pay the Emperor's taxes. You're going to have to pay 4 yuan. You better make sure you have that. Then we have the Mongols Invasion, and with that, basically, whoever has the most general or military symbols here is going to score a point. Whoever doesn't has to kill a character. You have the fireworks here, and basically what happens is whoever has the most firework tokens is going to score a bonus of 6 points. We have these firework tokens. And whoever has the second most is going to score 3 points. And whoever doesn't have any will score none. And those are the different events. And again, each event has 2 copies of each of that event. So let's get back in here, my final thoughts and grades. And that's how you play in the Year of the Dragon. So let's get straight to my grades. First of all, we're going to talk about components. I'm going to give it a C-. The tiles in this game and the cards and the pieces, they all get the job done. There's nothing necessarily to write home about, but again, they're satisfactory. But the board and its color schemes and its graphic design is just lackluster, to say the least. It's very boring. It's not very aesthetically pleasing. It's not eye-grabbing. It doesn't have much of a table presence. So because of that, it knocks down the component grade to a C-. Now we'll move on to theme, and I'm going to give this a B+ for theme. And I don't normally give Stefan Feld games a very high grade for theme, but I feel like while the mechanisms might feel very abstracted, or it's hard to see how the themes are integrated with mechanisms per se, but the idea, the feel, the spirit of the theme really does come out. This is the Year of the Dragon, and there's all sorts of bad things, calamitous events that are taking place. Also, the fact that a year is divided into 12 months, and Stefan Feld has decided to divide the gameplay into 12 rounds, I feel like that works very, very well. Also, the characters in this game correspond very well with all of the different bad events that are occurring. You have your healer who prevents characters from incurring disease, right? When you get the disease event that occurs twice in the game. You have your farmers, which produce rice, which will prevent or slow down or decrease the consequences of famine when famine comes, right? So you have all these different characters. The accountant who will help you get money, and this will help you for when it's the tax season in order to pay the lucrative taxes of the king or the emperor. All these things just work and correspond well with the different events. So again, I feel like it brings out the feel of the game and the theme and the spirit of the Year of the Dragon. Finally, we'll talk about gameplay. And for gameplay, I'm going to give this a solid B+. I'll admit, this is not my favorite Feld, or even among my favorite Felds per se, but it's a pretty good, solid game. A little bit basic mechanically speaking. My wife is a much bigger fan of this game. But again, it's easy to teach. It's pretty intuitive after you play a couple of games. Strategizing is always a challenge. It always leaves room for improvement, room for growth as an individual player. But again, solid, gets the job done. B+ for gameplay. Now we're going to go to Novelty Factor. And I'm actually going to give this game an A for novelty factor. I mean, there's a lot of things in this game that make it feel unique, especially back when it was first designed or published back in 2007. First of all, this idea of a game where so many terrible things are happening to the players, and moreover, it's not a cooperative game. It's not like the game is beating up all the players and the players are teaming up to fight the game. No, this is an individual thing. Also, the anticipation, the strategic foresight that players have in this type of game, it's very unique, I find. The idea that you have the 12 rounds laid out for you, and they're going to mix and match, and they're not always going to line up in the same combination. The first 2 months are always months of peace, but the next 10 can be in all sorts of combinations. But from the very get-go, you're going to know that those events are taking place so you can prepare and strategize long term. And I find that to be pretty neat. The fact that you have your actions, you have 7 possible actions at the beginning of your turn, your action phase, and they're divided into 2 groups, not necessarily equal, right? Because 7 does not divide evenly in 2. So you have 1 group of 4 and 1 group of 3. And you're always shuffling, and in each round, the 4 and the 3 are going to be a different configuration of each other. But the idea that you do that, and then the players choose an action on one side, and if another player wants to pick an action, not only just the same action that you just finished playing or a previous player finished picking, but if they want to pick any action that's on the same side, on the same division of 4 versus 3, that a previous player chose, they're going to have to pay 3 yuan or 3 coins. That is crazy. That is so cool and really makes you think about your decisions. Especially if you're the second player, you really have to think, is it worth paying 3 coins because I want that action that badly? Or can I work with this group of 3 or maybe this group of 4 that perhaps would not have been among my first choices, but this is what I have to work with. I don't have money, or maybe I do, but I want to save it for later on when I have to pay the emperor's taxes. I find that to be really, really cool, really neat, and makes for a very tight experience. And this is already a very tight game, and that further enhances that tightness, that tight, tense feel that the game evokes from the beginning to the end. So there is that. The characters as a resource of sorts. Yes, you have your money. Yes, you're accumulating other types of resources like rice tiles and like firework tiles throughout the game. But your characters, not only are they like special powers and abilities for you, right? Because they kind of help you activate some of the actions and prevent some of the other calamities. But they're also a resource in and of themselves, because at the end of the game, they're going to be victory points for you, among other things. So you're suffering all these casualties throughout the game because you're losing your characters, and you're going to lose characters, sometimes more than others. But you're also losing points because each of those characters is worth points at the end of the game. And one of the coolest innovations of this game, and Stefan Feld in particular has done this in other designs of his, is the idea of the turn order track. So you have this turn order track that players are manipulating throughout the game, and sometimes the decisions you make, in particular in the drafting of the character tiles, are completely related to your turn order and how they can manipulate that turn order track and advance you further ahead, because perhaps you want to have that advantage over your opponents of going first or maybe even second in a multiplayer game. I find that to be really, really cool. It kind of serves as a game within the game. So yes, you're playing, you're figuring out all these things, you're strategizing based on the calamities and the sequence in which you find them. You're anticipating what's going to happen. You're kind of speculating as to what decisions your opponents might be making. But on top of all that, you're also trying to navigate this nuanced turn order system where it's not just a simple matter of clockwise turn order. It's not just a simple matter of alternating turn order. It's not just a simple matter of whoever's last goes first or something like this. No, it's a particular aspect of the game, a game within the game that you're manipulating, that you are also planning for in order to advance that track so that you can have a preferable spot in the turn order sequence. I find that to be A really cool innovation. And even though I've seen Stefan Feld do this in other games that I enjoy overall more than In the Year of the Dragon, I have to admit that this is probably my favorite of his implementation of that type of mechanism, the turn order track. And because of that, novelty factor, an A for this game. And overall, I'm going to give this game an A minus. There's some cool aspects to this game. Again, gameplay could be a little bit more, I guess, advanced or heavier. I feel like it's probably too basic as far as gameplay is concerned, but some of these innovations that I mentioned, the novelty factor, really bring the game out. I like the Oriental theme. Again, aside from the board itself, the components are pretty satisfactory, and also the theme. I just like the implementation of the theme. There's games like Notre Dame, for example, that I like a lot more than In the Year of the Dragon, but I don't feel its theme as I'm playing the game. When I play In the Year of the Dragon, I personally feel the theme. That's why this game gets an overall grade of A-. Well, that's it for today, folks. Comment down below, tell me what you think. Consider checking out one of these videos on the screen if YouTube is showing them to you, because they think there's a really good chance that you will like one of them. Also, check in the description down below for a link to my Patreon account and find out how you can support this channel and be more involved in the behind-the-scenes process. Research and find a tier that works for you. This is Harry saying take care, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have fun gaming. Bye-bye.